Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Just baked some cookies.
Sure.
I've made a new batch of cookies. I tweaked my recipe a little bit, and it turned out really good.
Awesome.
I got like the crispy edges, but it's still nice and chewy on the inside. So it's looking pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, Lisa saw those pictures you put on Facebook, and she was like, "Oh, we need to have them over soon."
Right? Yeah, she was like, "You need to come visit. Bring cookies." Which is one of the main reasons why I've been learning how to bake. Is so it's like once I'm able to visit people again, I'm going to bring baked goods.
Awesome.
So,
yeah, by the time this episode goes out, I should be. I think both of us should have gotten our last second shot.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. As of this recording, this coming Friday is when I'm getting my second shot.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to?
Well, so this is the first episode we've recorded after my Nowhere Man podcast started.
Oh, right. Yes.
So only one episode is out as of this recording, but I think the end result is pretty good. So here's the thing. I had no idea if there was anywhere I could even like try to distribute this podcast. You know, I've got it on Anchor, anchor.fm/nowheremen. Mm-hmm. And I just figured, maybe I would do some Reddit searches, see if there's any subreddits where people might be interested. I could like reply to the YouTube video that most people are going to watch the show through if they ever watch the show on YouTube.
Sure. But
the day that the first episode went out, I thought to myself, shoot, I've never looked to see if there's like a Facebook group for Nowhere Man. I mean, it's an old obscure show. So right. I didn't think there would be, but I searched. Not only is there a Facebook group for the TV show Nowhere Man, but it's active enough that people are posting in there a couple times a week at least.
Okay.
So like it boggled my mind that there are people. I mean, I say this as a person who put over 100 hours of work into creating a podcast dedicated to it, but it boggles my mind that there are people that are still interested in Nowhere Man today.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I posted it in there, and it's not, I didn't get a ton of responses or a ton of views, but I figured that kind of a community, the impression I've gotten is that there's probably half a dozen people that will listen to every episode no matter what.
Sure.
So
yeah, just because that's just the devotion to the show, and they just they've been into it, so they're gonna keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy that there will at least be a small handful of listeners.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Then like that's the best you can ask for is just especially like people who are like big fans of the show and stuff like that. They'll at least get a kick out of it. You know, they might like disagree or whatever, but they're still engaging. You know, they're still engaging with it.
Yeah. A few days after I posted the episode, similar to how I do our weekly social media questions, I thought, maybe I'll just get some discussion going in that group. So I posted like, what's your favorite episode? And a couple people posted episodes that we spent a lot of time complaining about and destroying under our narrative acumen, I guess.
Hey, I mean, I think that's gonna generate engagement more than anything else,
Hopefully,
because people will be like, "What? No, that episode was great. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I listened to the show and I really enjoyed it. You guys did a very good job.
Cool, thank you. I'm really excited about future episodes and such. What I've been doing is I've already edited all of these to an extent. I don't edit them nearly as in depth as I edit this podcast. But what I've been doing after I did an initial pass where I cut out all of the long silences and any sort of like digressions that had nothing to do with the show, I cut those out a long time ago. And then I'm going through and just listening to them one last time while I'm at work or whatever. And then if I hear there's like a time where there's something I missed before, I'll just make a little note of the timestamp and then just go and cut those parts out and then upload it so that it'll be scheduled to go out. So I've got like the first 9 episodes, I think, are all ready to go. I'm not going to touch them again before they finally go out.
Yeah.
So,
but no, like I really enjoyed it, and it was really nice to like hear you guys talk about this thing, and like you guys did a very good job talking about it, and it was very interesting. And then, but there was also like the level of like, oh, I get to listen to my friends chat like as if I'm in the room with them, because I don't get to be in the room with them anymore.
Sure.
And then it's also at the very least, like it's in the before times, so it's like hearing your voices during a time when there was less to worry about. Like I was like, it's like, oh, there's still life in them. Like there's still like this sort of like hopefulness to your voices, and
you
like,
can't hear the world burning down outside the window.
Right, exactly. So
not until episode 19 or something.
Sure, yeah. So like it was very like, I was like, oh, it's like it's nostalgic in a lot of ways, not just because you guys are my friends, but also like this was made in the before times.
Sure.
So yeah, no, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
And I think that even the early episodes are good, but I noticed that like on this last re-listen through, I think that episode 4 of our podcast is when we really get into our groove, and like episode 4 is like fantastic. I think the 3 before that are good, but this, because I've listened to them, 3 or 4 times by this point, and they're each 3 or 4 hours long as it is, I'm beginning to like get tired of those episodes.
Sure.
But then once I got to episode 4, I was like, oh, this is what the podcast is.
Sure. Yeah.
So listeners, if you're willing to put in 9 to 10 hours, no, I'm joking. If you don't like episode 1, you're not going to like it. But I feel like even though I think the first 3 episodes are good, episode 4 is like we knock it out of the park and just keep on knocking it. It keeps trying to come back, and we just keep knocking it back out of the park.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah. If you are interested, the podcast can be found at anchor.fm/nowheremen. It is about the 1995 action thriller drama mystery TV show Nowhere Man. And you can watch that on YouTube at bit.ly/watchnowhereman.
Oh,
so go check that out. I set that up just because it's just an easy way to direct people to go watch it. So.
Yeah. you made a bit.ly for it. Yeah.
I did. I mean, that's good. It's free and it's easy, so why not?
Right. Yeah.
And then one more quick thing I want to mention. We've talked before about how cool it would be if there was like a map making software or a virtual tabletop software or something that lets you shrink down and walk around the dungeon.
Yeah.
I believe there is a product on Kickstarter right now that will let you do just that.
Yeah, you linked this to me.
I did. It's called Dungeon Full Dive.
Yeah.
I think Dungeon Full Dive, make your D&D worlds real or something like that. I'll put the link in the show notes. But it's a virtual tabletop that I think is made primarily for VR, but is not VR exclusive.
Sure.
You can play it on your PC, and you can even cross play. So like you could be on your PC, I could be on VR, and you could both be playing in the same game. And then when you are in the game, you can, to some extent, I'm not sure exactly to what extent, but to some extent, you can walk around the environments. You can like move around as your avatar, like as your miniature. Mm-hmm. You can do that kind of stuff. It looks really, really cool. So I backed it. I'll put the link on there. If anybody else wants to check it out, you can. But I'm really excited for whenever that, in several years, whenever that comes out.
Right. Yeah. But like, it's it looks very early, rough kind of stuff, but like that's the direction. I feel like that's the direction that tabletop VR should be going in.
Yeah. It looks pretty good. So check that out. Enough of all this. You want to go ahead and get into this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do that.
So Jeff.
Yeah.
As you walk through the county fair, you see all kinds of different sights. There are people presenting their infernal chickens. Over there are some games of chance, a ring toss, a Goliath is ringing the bell with a large hammer. But what really grabs your attention is the pumpkins.
Ooh.
There are vegetables of every size, shape, and color that are being judged. As you watch, the head judge is giving the blue ribbon to a large, scaly person wearing a straw hat and standing next to the largest pumpkin you've ever seen.
Wow.
As you watch, the judge says, "This ribbon goes to the Dragon's Gourd."
That's pretty good. I like that.
That was submitted by Carl L. via email. Thank you, Carl. He also submitted the item for today. And today's item is a simple one. It is gourd d'aqua pura. So it's like the gourd of pure water.
Nice.
This is an uncommon item. This simple hollowed out squash has been dried and hardened into a sort of large cup. Runes carved into the base of the cup cause the cup to absorb all poison or disease as per the purify food or drink spell. This will only work on liquids.
Nice.
And that's the whole item. That's all it does. It just, you put some liquids in there. If it is poisonous or it is diseased, it absorbs it so that you can drink or pour out or whatever without having it be poisoned.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I like this is like a nice, I don't know, this is a nice flavorful like touch to a character or something. Like this is like you give this to, I don't know, you give this to a character, and I feel like this, it's like a magic item that doesn't really it doesn't really give any sort of real like any like major advantage to anything, but
sure,
it can, you know, it can be useful. Maybe you plan for it to be like specifically useful in an adventure or something like that.
Oh,
but
yeah,
like,
sure.
But like it could make a character quirk where like they always want to use it because they don't want to ever get poisoned or something, or you know, or like you know, you always got fresh water because you can just scoop up any old water and it's gonna purify it. I think that's how the spell. I think that's partly how the spell works. I'm not sure if it only specifically is just like, oh, it just gets rid of poison, but I guess.
So the spell says all non-magical food and drink within a 5-foot radius sphere centered on the point of your choice within range is purified and rendered free of poison and disease.
Yeah, so
the spell itself is pretty simple too.
Yeah, so that's basically you could just scoop up some bog water and you got a nice drink. You know, you're fine.
I guess, yeah.
You're not gonna have any issues. Like,
yeah.
So like, you know, I think it's cool. I like it.
So I have a question. How would you feel if this item had a limit? Like a number of times that it could be used.
Okay. And
then after it's been used, I don't know, 100 times or something like that, it becomes a different magic item that is just like a gourd of poison, like some sort of like super poisonous thing that does something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I know. I get what you're just saying. Yeah. So it absorbs so much poison that it becomes poisonous in some way.
Sure. And then if one was so inclined, it could be used as a weapon after that.
I was just thinking like you could use it as, it would be, become like poisonous, but then like you could fashion it into like a mace or something, or like a club.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Like you put it at the end of a club or something like that. And so now the club does like some poison damage or something like that.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like crafting weapons and items and stuff, like you know, having the players craft them out of like interesting things and not just like, oh, I'm going to spend a lot of money and make a sword and get a sword made that's a, you know, exactly what I want, but it's like you kill this monster, you take its head, you like take its head as a trophy, and then like you happen upon a, you know, a blacksmith or something that's like, hey, is that a such and such? Oh, I can make something out of that, or, you know, whatever.
Sure.
So like, yeah, this is like a pretty, for a magic item, it's fairly mundane.
Sure.
But yeah, I like that idea that it'll just, over time, it will absorb enough poison out of the stuff, or like, and disease out of the, you know, stuff you've been putting in it.
Sure.
That it will, that it has some sort of magical poison effect or something.
Yeah, I just thought it was, because this, like I said, this item is pretty simple, but if it had just a little extra wrinkle, you know, that let it turn into something else, or it could go back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
Like once it's turned into a mace and you use it to deal X number of poison damage or something.
Yeah, so like if it... Oh, here's a nice simple one. It's anytime it absorbs actual poison, like if you're just doing it to just purify some water, it doesn't really do much. But like,
sure,
if it like whatever you put in it was actually had poison or disease in it or something, like it got a charge, and then you can use those charges to like cast like poison spray or something.
Okay.
So you can shoot the poison out of it. So you
Sure.
just get, you'd have this like drinking vessel that like you could have like a charge saved up to cast a spell. So like people are, it's unassuming because they think, oh, it's just his drinking mug, whatever.
Sure.
Or maybe you could have it do more things depending on how many charges it has or something.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a different magic item once you
Yeah.
start adding stuff like this, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a neat way to enhance this item, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it could be something you implement later. Like the player just uses it instinctively, and then one adventure you decide like, hey, your gourd is sort of glowing suddenly or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
So it's a way to like give the player an upgrade to their equipment without like, without just like handing them something new.
Sure. Maybe you give them this at a very early point in the campaign, and then after they stop using it because it's no longer relevant, then you have it turn into something else.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Gourd d'Aqua Pura. So it's a pretty simple item from Carl L. Thank you very much, Carl L. So Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or if they wanted to submit stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
There you go. So next up, we have a giveaway to give away today. As usual, we're giving away a copy of 3 supplements from Crit Academy: the Warmind, which is a cleric domain, the Skybreaker, which is a fighter archetype, and the Werecat, which is a player race, as well as a few other supplements that Crit Academy's throwing in along with those. So Jeff, who is the winner of these cool supplements today?
Today's winner is Matthew W.
Winner! Gobble. Yes, congratulations, Matthew. Should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Be sure to leave Crit Academy a review for each of these, because the more reviews they get, the more attention they get, and also the more they can know to work on in the future. So they won't know how to improve their products unless they get feedback from users like yourself. So yeah, big thank you to Crit Academy for always being willing to let us give out some of these things for free, some of these great supplements from them. Congratulations to Matthew W. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Matthew W. and they wanted to win a free copy of these 3 or more supplements, how would they enter the drawing?
They would send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with crit3 in the subject line.
That is correct. Hey, Jeff.
Yeah?
We have some good news. We just got another patron.
Oh.
We have... Our new patron is Becklow.
Oh.
Who I believe is somebody that we both know, a good friend of ours. I did not realize they listened to the podcast, so it was a great surprise to see them become a patron.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Becky, for joining. We really, really appreciate it. And of course, if there's anything you can think that we can do to improve it, let us know.
Yeah.
So yeah, big thank you to Becklow. Thank you, everybody. Do you love Interparty Conflict? You know, the show you're listening to right now? Yeah! Then check out their Patreon at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. You can help support the show and get tons of bonus content too. Access hundreds of outtakes, dozens of short stories, periodic updates about the behind the scenes of the show, personalized media, a monthly Roll20 game run by Gabe himself, and more. Every month, Green and Red Tier patrons get access to the bonus podcast InterPatronConflict, where Gabe and Jeff cover a wide variety of topics. Join right now and access the most recent episode, which might sound a little something like this.
I saw me slide it to him. He saw me slide it to him, but it just was not there. It just disappeared. So we were both completely confused because we both saw that I had handed it to him. I tore that desk apart. He looked all over the floor where he was. I looked in crevices I didn't even know existed. And as far as I know, that card was never found. It just glitched out of the matrix.
Right, yeah, it could have just been like a crack in the wood of the table or something that it just slid into.
But here's the thing. When we broke that table down because we were moving to a crappy building.
Right.
I mean, I worked there then. I still remembered that incident as I do now. I was there when we took that desk apart. There was no library card.
It's people needed it. It had to it had to be somewhere else.
That library card died on its way to its home planet.
Right.
Once again, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict to help out the show and access all that bonus content today. And then one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Austin create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Check out D&D Character Lab, where Garen and Dan made characters every week and pitted them against each other. And also check out Brute Force and Ignorance, they're an actual play podcast, and The Kind GM, which is another advice podcast for Dungeon Masters. So check all of them out. Enough of all this admin. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from Nature Success on Reddit. They ask, one of my players wants to play a changeling. They seem way too powerful. Am I missing something? So about this, I'm wondering, which version of the changeling are they using?
I think they were using just the bog standard one. I think that their fear of the changelings was from just some misunderstanding of how they worked and what sort of I don't think they were involving the Unearthed Arcana abilities or like the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron abilities, but we'll go through all of those.
Yeah.
So changelings they're a player race. They were first instituted in the 3rd edition Eberron book. They were Eberron specific. Mm-hmm. I believe, I'm pretty sure you can use them in any campaign setting now, but the way that they exist in 5th edition, they're player race. They get a few abilities. And then as Jeff mentioned, there's an Unearthed Arcana / Wayfinder's Guide version that has a couple extra abilities that are missing from the official release of Rising from the Last War. But we'll go through all of it. So I'm pretty sure that the official version, all they really get is a +1 to charisma and then their change appearance ability. So the idea behind changelings is that they are either descended from doppelgangers. So doppelgangers being the creatures that can sort of read your mind and change their physical form to look like someone that you know, so that they can pose as someone else and trick you into going along with them or whatever. So changelings are either descended from them or they are some sort of an evolutionary offshoot or something.
Yeah.
So when you play as a changeling, the main thing that you have is this change appearance ability. The way that the change appearance ability works is it is a physical change to your body. It's not an illusion. If someone were to put their hand on your face after you've changed your face, they would feel whatever your new face is. Their hand wouldn't pass through part of your face because it's an illusion. Because it's not an illusion, it's a physical change.
Yeah.
The way this works in 5th edition, as an action, you can change your appearance and your voice. You determine the specifics of the changes. The specifics of the changes, including your coloration, hair length, and sex. You can also adjust your height and weight, but not so much that your size changes. You can make yourself appear as a member of another race, though none of your game statistics change. You can't duplicate the appearance of a creature you've never seen, and you must adopt a form that has the same basic arrangement of limbs that you have. Your clothing and equipment are not changed by this ability. You stay in the new form until you use an action to revert to your true form, or until you die. Mm-hmm. And then I believe the Wayfinder's Guide version gets an increase to your dexterity or intelligence. And then it has the change appearance ability, which I think is mostly the same. I think there's a little bit of mechanics as far as how people can see through it. But then also changelings in the Wayfinder's Guide, they have a reaction they can use whenever someone attacks them that lets them sort of momentarily change their appearance to be something terrifying to give the attacker disadvantage on their attack roll. And then they also had an ability where they get a proficiency with a tool of their choice that has to do with a persona that they take on as part of their forms that they're changing. So
Yeah.
they had
Yeah,
a couple other little things in there.
Right. Yeah, because I remember when we were going to be playing an Eberron adventure.
Yeah. I think right before quarantine.
Yeah, right before quarantine. And like we were looking at these through the Wayfinder's Guide, and then like you had just gotten the book when we started doing the adventure.
Yeah.
And like Steve had made a changeling based on the Wayfinder's Guide, and there was just so much, like there was like the unsettling visage ability and like the divergent persona thing, which I think like is what he used to build his character. Like he based a lot of the ideas for his character off of this like different persona.
Yeah.
Where you get a proficiency with a tool, and I think he was doing forgery tools.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. And then when we got the book and looked at it, it's like, oh no, they're completely different, and like they just have change form, and that's it.
Sure.
That was everything.
Yeah, it's all of the Eberron options kind of are a bit lackluster. If you use the official versions, the Wayfinder's Guide version is better in every way, pretty much. Whether that's too much, I guess that's up for the DM to decide. But
yeah.
So actually, I found Nature Success's full description of the problem. I very much simplified it, but let me give you the whole context.
Okay.
They said, honestly, the changeling is something I would never have put in an official book. The player is just going to want to change their appearance every 5 seconds for every situation there is. They could sneak into practically anywhere at any time with no cost. They could just change into a minion and walk up to the boss and stab him in the back of the neck. I don't get it. Am I missing something? I get that maybe the other party members don't like changelings, but I'm pretty sure they'd get over it if this changeling can win the campaign single-handedly. And no NPC will ever know that they're a changeling, so them hating changelings isn't a problem. Oh, I really wish this player hadn't said they wanted to be a changeling. So, yeah, that I think gives us some specific things to rebut, I guess.
Yeah, I get what they're saying, but you can implement skill checks at any time you want. You're a DM.
Yeah.
Like, they look and sound like somebody else, but like they have to have seen that person.
Yeah.
And just because they see and can turn into them visually doesn't mean they're going to act like them.
Absolutely.
So, like, you could disguise yourself as, minion number 23. And, you try to walk up to the boss, but, like, you don't know what minion 23 is supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
So you have to, like, make checks to kind of try to fake it. Or you have to do the pre-work and like figure out what minion 23 does. So you have to do skill checks to learn what minion 23 does, so that when you do turn into them, you can maybe do a little bit better job, and maybe you get advantage on those checks or something like that. So like it's, you don't have to let them just walk up and, just stab the boss, because like they still have to play the part. They don't, just because they look and sound like them doesn't mean they're going to act like them.
Sure. What I would say to someone with this question is, you have to remember, this is a world where magic exists.
Right.
If changelings didn't exist, there is already magic that does the same thing the changelings do, but better, actually. Changelings, their ability is quite a bit less powerful than just using, the change self spell or whatever the spell is that lets you do that. So that spell would already exist. And also, even if that spell didn't exist, dominate exists. Charm exists. Heck, bribing someone with 1,000 gold to go kill their boss exists.
Right, true.
If all it takes to kill the big bad evil guy is for one of their minions or someone that looks like one of their minions to walk up and stab them, good on them. I mean, if that was the only obstacle, they found a way around the one obstacle.
Yeah.
You could dominate someone, you could bribe someone, you could disguise yourself as someone, but like you were saying, Jeff, you have to act. People are going to notice that something is amiss unless you are acting like that person too. If someone walked into your boss's office and was like looking around, walking through the wrong door, wearing their uniform wrong, or not wearing a uniform. Because remember, the changeling's ability doesn't let you change your equipment. It only lets you change what you and your skin and your hair and such look like.
Right.
So if someone that looked like Jeff, but clearly had never been to Jeff's workplace before, walked into Jeff's boss's office and then slapped the boss, in the real world, that might be like, oh my goodness, what did Jeff just do? Because there's no other possible solution. But in a world where this is a thing lots of people could do, there's going to be things to stop that. If there aren't things to stop that, then it wasn't a very difficult obstacle.
Sure, yeah. It's not a very big, bad, evil guy if he doesn't, have contingencies, planned and stuff.
If one of his rivals could just pay one of the minions, here's a year's salary, just go stab your boss. If
Right.
one of them could do that, why haven't they already done it?
Sure.
Is my question.
So yeah, if this is something the player wants to try to do, but you got to make it, you got to make it hard. You got to make it hard. You can't just be like, okay, you do it because you have that ability. You got to say like, all right, well, you got to get a uniform. Okay, so you got to find a way to capture one of the minions so you can get a uniform, and then but you want to learn what that minion does and things like that. So like, if you think it's too easy, add challenges.
Yeah.
You're the DM, and that kind of makes the adventure for you too, because like you could like. It's like, okay, they basically want to pull a heist kind of situation where they have to Ocean's 11 plan out what they're doing.
Yeah.
And everybody's got a part. Maybe they got to the fighters got to go and subdue one of the minions so you can get you have to find the password or something. You can't just walk into the place.
Sure.
Just because you look like the guy. You got to know the password too.
Yeah. If the minion doesn't have a key card on them, how are you going to get into the building?
Right, yeah. So there's plenty of ways to put challenges in front of them. It's going to get their foot in the door, so to speak.
Sure.
But it's going to make them feel cool because I got us to this point, but that doesn't mean that it's going to get them the whole way there.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, getting the whole way there isn't the end of the encounter.
Right, yeah.
If you get into the boss's room and you stab the boss, assuming, let's just say, sure, you somehow killed the boss in one hit. Now what?
Yeah, now you got to fight your way out.
Was
maybe?
nobody else in the room? Did nobody just watch you walk in and stab the boss? If so, what then? They're not going to be like, oh, our friend just killed the boss, but it's our friend. I guess we'll just let him go. I mean, come on.
although depending on the boss.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I mean, but these are all factors that
right.
When you take all of them into account leads to an awesome encounter, an awesome session. If the players plan out a heist and they're doing it, they've done their homework to find out that actually most of the people want this boss dead. If they've done the legwork, this is one factor, one piece of the heist, and it's awesome. Every player hey, everybody out there, here's a rule. Every player wants to be part of a heist.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
True story.
Heist adventures are awesome because the whole idea is everybody has a thing to do, whether you're the lookout, the muscle, the demolitionist or whatever, you can find something for somebody, every person in that party, there's something they can contribute to a heist.
Mm-hmm.
Skill. This is it's like a skill challenge, kind of like a really good excuse to do a skill challenge thing.
Yeah.
And then there's plenty of room for combat encounters, stealth encounters, and things like that. So this, I don't think this is gonna. This doesn't make it. This isn't a golden gun. This
Absolutely.
isn't
Exactly.
This isn't just now you can just walk right into the bad guy's lair and slit their throat in their sleep or whatever. This is this is just a tool for you to make a cool adventure.
Exactly. And of the stuff that this would bypass, there are already other ways to bypass that thing. Like I said, you could just cast a spell that does the same thing but better.
Yeah.
So that already if that was your obstacle that you planned the entire session to be about, you didn't plan the session very well. There's already lots of other. This is just another way to overcome a specific set of problems. So I can also understand the concern that, oh, well, this player is just going to want to just change their form to every situation. What am I supposed to do? And I can understand that sentiment. I've definitely had that attitude about players before, but the answer or the response to that question is, so what?
Yeah.
When the elf is always wanting to use their, perception skill on stuff, or the dwarf is always wanting to make checks to identify stonework, or the gnome encounters a burrowing creature and is like, oh man, I want to talk to this burrowing creature. If you plan an entire session where the gnome is constantly talking to burrowing creatures, cool. That means that player got a moment to shine.
Yeah.
The amount of time, the number of times where this will actually be significant is much lower than your gut reaction thinks it might be.
All right.
And again, even if they weren't a changeling, they could still do these things, maybe just only a couple times per day. If they're doing this, if the changeling is finding more than 1 or 2 opportunities per day to take the form of somebody, good on them, because they're paying attention.
Right, yeah.
They're paying attention, and they are looking for ways to use the tools that they have. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When all you have is the ability to change forms, if you're able to find a way to change forms, good on you.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Just because you have this ability and you can do it at will or whatever, it doesn't mean you're going to find good uses for it. So
yeah,
if they can, that's good. Oh, so I just looked up Disguise Self,
Okay.
level 1 action, lasts an hour. It's including your clothing.
Yeah. So yeah, first level spell is better than the changeling's ability.
Right. So I mean, like, nothing really stopping them from doing that, no matter what. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a neat thing to like, but it's fun for a player to be able to just do it at will, because you can it is kind of fun to just do it whenever, because it becomes part of your character. It's like at will abilities are just sort of like, they're not always going to be like tools to make like encounters easier or whatever. They might make role playing easier. Like if I can turn into whatever I want, like I'm going to feel there's more freedom for me to just go up and talk to an NPC, because I can basically create whatever scenario I want.
Sure.
If I play like a lizard folk and I want to talk to NPCs to like when you're playing an orc or a lizard folk or something like that, you're always talking to somebody as that orc or a lizard folk. So like it's kind of hard to, I don't know.
It gives you more opportunities to role play, gives you more opportunities to talk to someone without a particular type of baggage that they might have if you were a different character.
Yeah.
Here's possibly what Nature Success was concerned about is, let's say they are trying to interrogate the shopkeeper or something. If they roll really low, maybe they could just walk outside, change form, and then walk right back in and then try again. Theoretically, sure.
Yeah.
But if I'm at work and somebody walks in and they get rude with me,
yeah,
and then they walk away, and then immediately another person comes in and asks the same question, even if they look and sound different, I'm going to at least assume that they are in cahoots with each other.
Right. Yeah.
Especially if they have the same mannerisms and the same temperament.
Yeah, it's like a kid like coming in to like try and like buy cigarettes at the gas station, and they're like, "Kid, you're too young. Get out of here." And then he hops out, comes back in with a mustache. Like
There's the Family Guy sketch where he's getting the free samples at the grocery store.
Oh, right.
He gets a free sample and then he walks away and then he comes back with a mustache and then he comes back again with like, I don't know, Mongolian headdress or something. And then the free samples guy is like, dude, you don't have to you can just take, they're free samples, take them. And then he's like, what are you talking about? And then you see there's a whole line of Peter Griffins all with different facial features. And then the actual Peter Griffin gets in the back of the line and is like, hey, can I get in there?
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Can I get another one of those? Yeah.
Like that's going to seem suspicious. Maybe they get an extra try, but something is gonna seem fishy. And again, magic exists. They could already be doing this. Shopkeepers should already be aware of people trying to use magic to trick them into giving information, giving deals, letting them steal stuff, etc.
Yeah.
If a shopkeeper, if they have like really expensive stuff for sale, they probably have wards and divinations and such to prevent people from harassing the shopkeeper already. So there's no reason to assume that the changeling would have an easier time getting past those than somebody else.
Yeah. And depending on what campaign setting you're in, like if changelings are like a normal thing, yeah, like if
they are in Eberron,
right? If you're playing in Eberron, they're just sort of, people know about changelings and know that they exist, so like they sort of have that in the back of their mind, like, oh, this could be a changeling, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even if it's not Eberron, you just make it so like, okay, changelings are rare, but they're not unknown. They're
sure.
Or you could have there be a different changeling in the situation, so like, you are disguising yourself as Minion 23, but Minion 24 was a changeling disguising themselves as like one of the town watch that was helping you.
Ooh, okay.
That was helping you plan it out.
Yeah.
So like, there could be another, like an enemy changeling that is like, double agent sort of situation where they're helping you infiltrate the boss's lair. Meanwhile, the boss knows exactly what's going on.
And here's actually just going again with like the turning into the minion and then just walking up to the boss and stabbing them, whatever. There's actually the first campaign of the Adventure Zone had a situation where the players did pretty much exactly that.
Uh-huh.
There's this I don't know, gang or whatever they're trying to infiltrate. So the party spellcaster turns himself into, I think they kidnapped one of the members, knocked him out, left him behind a tree somewhere. The spellcaster turned themselves into him and then walked up to try and, get in through the front gate. Number one, there were some skill checks and such they had to make. They had to convince them. They had to have a convincing conversation with these people that supposedly they already know and work with. That went pretty poorly. And then number two, while they're doing all this stuff, someone says, hey, wait a minute. Who's there? Who's that walking up from down the road? And it's the person that they just beat up and left behind a tree. That person is now walking up and now they're realizing, wait a minute, there's two of them.
Yeah.
So it's not just as simple as you just walk in and stab the boss. There are so many things that can go wrong that if you need something to go wrong, if you don't want them to be able to do exactly that, you're the DM, you can do it. Watch a spy movie. Watch
sure.
a heist movie. There's always things that go wrong. So do one of those things.
Right. Yeah.
I think changelings are really cool. I also like the idea of the NPCs, just the general populace, having some bias against changelings, and the changeling in the group having to constantly keep their nature hidden, because if it becomes clear that they are a changeling, they're going to get run out of town, or people are going to try to kill them or whatever. I like that as a source of tension. Look at that as an opportunity, not as a roadblock.
Yeah. All right. Our next question comes from Potato Plunderer on email, and they ask, how do you feel about changing weapon stats and mechanics from the ones in the book?
Yeah. So let's say you have somebody in your group that wants to use a bow, but they've got a really low dex and a really high strength. Could you maybe let them use a bow that uses strength instead of dexterity? Or a great sword that deals 2d6 bludgeoning damage instead of 2d6 slashing damage or something like that.
I think for the most part, I don't think it's going to break the game one way or another.
Yeah.
Like little tweaks like that. There might be a particular build that will take advantage of it to where it would be pretty powerful, but even those kind of builds I don't think are any more powerful than min-maxing in other ways,
Sure.
Like you can make a real nasty, multi-class character, and it didn't matter what weapon you use. You're a paladin sorcerer or whatever, or paladin warlock or whatever the combo is. That's like you can smite all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of ways to exploit the game mechanics. So like I don't like changing a weapon in a little way like that. I don't think is going to kill anything.
Yeah.
Like there's, in 5th edition, if you want to do a ranged character, throwing weapons are a thing.
Sure.
So like it could be mechanically a throwing weapon, so you're using strength, but it's a special kind of composite bow or something instead.
Sure. Yeah, when Potato Plunderer sent this in, they were asking, they referenced a couple things that we've talked about. And I've talked about having in 3rd edition, there was a bow that kind of made its rounds through our campaigns. That it's not that it was a bow that used strength, but it was a bow that allowed you to use your strength. Like in 3rd edition, there were rules on how much strength you were allowed to use for added damage.
Yeah.
Like the damage bonus from your strength was limited. And there was a bow that made the rounds it had an infinite strength bonus. Whatever your strength bonus was, you could apply the entire thing. I could definitely, if I ever felt like putting that into a 5th edition campaign, I could definitely see myself putting that in as a bow that uses strength instead of dex. Also, when I played as my character Ichi, I had a katana, which was a two-handed sword. It was basically just a bastard sword. But I had convinced the DM at the very beginning of the campaign, because I envisioned the characters being very dexterous. I convinced the DM to let me have a katana that was also considered a finesse weapon, so that I could use my dexterity modifier in place of my strength.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, though, my strength and dex ended up being basically the same number for the entire campaign, so it really didn't matter.
Right.
But, the DM was fine with that, and I really don't think it would have changed much. At most, I'm getting like an extra, 1 point of damage per hit?
Yeah.
It's not going to break the game.
Like, yeah, technically it's like, because if you don't have to worry about strength, dexterity is one of the, like, it gives you more benefits than most ability scores do.
Especially in 3rd edition, it was definitely the most powerful stat.
Right. So if you can find a way to have everything go off of your dex, you were pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's gonna completely overpower the character.
Yeah.
And like, and it gives the player something unique, like
Sure.
It's something unique without being magical and crazy powerful. It's just a weapon. Like if they just want like a fancy weapon that's just theirs to have and works the way that they want it, I don't see it being a huge deal. I know 5th edition does have some weird stuff with weapon types. Is it a melee weapon attack? Is it a melee attack? Is it a
right.
ranged attack? Is it a ranged weapon attack? Is it a ranged attack but with a melee weapon? Like it's there's a lot of weird stuff in there that like maybe there'll be a way to take advantage of, but again, like I don't think there's anything that you could do changing a weapon that's going to make anything more powerful than some other exploit, some other min-maxing thing, power gaming thing a player can do.
I would just say try not to just increase the damage of any weapons.
Right. Yeah. Don't just add numbers, but
yeah,
you can change them in an equivalent way. Like change damage types, sure. Change ability, which ability score you're using, sure. That's maybe don't add reach, don't give everything reach or something, but
right.
If they want a weapon with reach, look at another weapon with reach and say like, okay, if you want you want this kind of weapon with reach, but you want it bludgeoning instead of this or that, like try to find a weapon that is similar and make adjustments.
And when in doubt, just make it a magic item.
Yeah, true.
Have it not be that they can do this with any weapon or that all of these types of weapons are like this. It's one specific weapon. This is a special great sword that, I don't know, lets you use your dex. This is one, a special bludgeoning arrow or bow and arrow or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
When in doubt. And if, hey, maybe run it by the rest of the group and make sure everybody's cool with it.
Right. Yeah. It's just like Goku's power pole where it's like, it's a quarterstaff that also has a ranged attack or something, that's like a ranged bludgeoning
really
attack. Cool.
It's
like in the, it's a magical item.
Yeah.
But it's not like, all it's doing is saving them the action of swapping weapons, which is it's action economy. It's a powerful thing, but it's not gonna. But like, you still only get so many actions anyway.
Yeah.
You're saving them, one action or whatever to change their equipment. Cool. That will feel amazing for the player and be like. But we'll only give them like so much extra power. Like it's not going to really change. It's not going to make your job harder, but it actually makes their experience like crazy, like a lot better. Like the gains in fun are going to be way more than the work involved.
Yeah. Try it out. See how it goes. I'm sure the players will love it and probably won't make a huge difference.
Yeah.
All right. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what was your first experience with trolls in D&D? Did you know about their regeneration and how did you deal with it? Mm-hmm. Do you recall what your answer was, Jeff?
I can't remember my first it must have been in 2nd edition, but I'm pretty sure by then I had known about the regeneration because that was just one of the classic features of monsters from D&D. It's like, in trolls, they can regenerate and you can only damage them with fire or acid. Like, whoa, that's neat.
Right.
So that's one of the things that drew me into the game was those little details about the monster, they're not just monsters. They're not just a bag of hit points. They have all these different features that you got to know about them to fight them. So yeah, I can't remember a specific instance of a troll. I think I remember getting ambushed by a troll in we were camping or something, and they're the rend ability that they had. I remember played a big part of it.
Yeah,
I feel like it was either early on in Age of Worms but something makes me think that I think Jay was DMing at the time, so I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my first experience was in the Curse of the Azure Bonds D&D computer game.
Oh, right, yeah.
Where there's a scripted event in the sewers where you come across the remains of a troll, and if you don't burn them, the troll comes back to life and attacks you. So yeah, fun stuff. So we got only a few responses over on Facebook. Michael N says, first encounter was back in 2nd edition. Had no idea trolls regen. Our party killed one and explored its cave. Came out and he was alive again. Kill it and decide we need to set it on fire. Smell of burning flesh attracts undead from the surrounding area. My paladin dies and the thief in our party dies after stealing a unknowingly cursed brooch of burrowing from my corpse. Good times.
That is very interesting. Because trolls, it's very well known that you have to use fire or acid, but that's one of those things that your character might not know it, but the player definitely knows it, and it's going to be really hard to not use that metagame knowledge. But having that extra consequence of okay, you guys burned the flesh of the troll. Good job, you've defeated the troll. But now there's this other thing because you did there's a consequence to you knowing this information.
Sure.
I really like that it attracted the undead when you did that. I'm like, ooh, that's really good.
That's a pretty good trade-off. You can either fight the troll or you can kill the troll easily, but then fight these undead instead.
Yeah, like it's like oh, good job, you read the monster manual ahead of time. Well, here's this other thing that's going to happen anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a pretty darn good way of combating metagaming, because I mean, people are going to metagame whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Right, yeah.
I've used trolls as the example of why I like to reskin things, because if I don't make it clear that it's a troll, if I describe it as a two-headed alligator instead, the players aren't necessarily going to think, oh, okay, it's regenerating, so let's use fire or acid. They might just think, oh, maybe it's got fast healing or something, or, you know. Alex S. says, first encounter of Dragon Heist has a scripted troll battle. Lots of fun for new characters to see and get involved in a higher level encounter with the bonus of spooking them away from Undermountain, at least for now. And yeah, I've never played Dragon Heist, but that sounds like a cool start to the campaign.
Yeah.
Crit Academy says, the internet.
Trolls everywhere.
Yep. Oh, okay. I'm dumb. I thought that they were saying like they read about trolls on the internet, but what you said makes a lot more sense.
Oh, sure.
Maybe both. Colin W. says, Adventurers League game. I had played enough D&D 5th edition at that point to be aware of the need for fire. I think the DM hinted strongly at the vulnerability to fire up front before anyone at the table metagamed. A wizard in the party ignited the troll, and then the DM allowed for my character, a gnome drunk monk, to throw beer bottles, that is monk darts, at the troll to keep the fire going.
Nice.
That's pretty good. That's actually a pretty good way to deal with it. Just let them throw stuff to keep it going.
Yeah, because like trolls are challenging.
Yep.
Even if you know that secret, you know.
Sure.
The worst kept secret in D&D. So like they're still challenging. So like, and especially for like lower levels when you don't exactly have fireballs to be thrown around, or you can't just not everybody's going to be able to conjure fire at every turn.
Nobody replied on Reddit, which is unusual. Over on Twitter, the DM's Council says, our first encounter with trolls were in the sewers of the large metropolis of Greyhawk. They were eating rotten food and filth, so they had poisonous claw and bite attacks.
Ooh.
Out of sheer luck, we had a pyromancer that clued us in on their weakness. Otherwise, we would have run away.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I would say anytime your first encounter with a given creature has you running away, I think that's a pretty good first impression.
Yeah, that's, that's a good lesson to learn too, is like running away is it's an option. Like, I feel like that's like one of the harder things to
it never happens.
Right.
I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah, that's one of the harder things for players to learn, is that running is an option. And sometimes the DMs don't really give them that option.
Sure.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Over on Discord, Lone Wolf Nateman says, I don't think I've ever encountered them that I can recall. So hopefully they will soon.
Well,
Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, I'm pretty sure the DM's wife was like, oh no, these guys regenerate. I was thankful for the knowledge in that moment, but one potential surprise went straight out the window. I knew from Willow lore that trolls are supposed to do something other than die immediately, but I wasn't specifically aware of the fact that D&D gave them regeneration. My first troll encounter could probably have been much more memorable.
Mm.
And yeah, I remember trolls from Willow. I think Willow zaps one of them with a magic spell, and then it turns into a giant monster or something. Maybe those were goblins and not trolls. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Collins B says, first time I ever encountered one was actually as a DM running session 1 of Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which conveniently has a higher powered NPC, Durnan, the owner of the Yawning Portal Tavern, to keep the damage directed away from the level 1 players and to tell them to douse the troll with lamp oil and set it on fire when it falls. All around a really fun fight that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see until higher levels, since if any of the players are reduced to 0 hit points during the fight, employees of the Yawning Portal step forward to stabilize them. Though lucky rolls on my part nearly had the troll kill Durnan, which would have been a nightmare to reconcile plot-wise. Yeah. It's almost like scripted encounters are difficult to do well.
Yeah.
The Beverage Tea says, kind of D&D-ish. In the sewers of one of the districts in Baldur's Gate 2, there were 2 who kept getting up, and I had gone through all of my arrows, and my melee fighters were like, WTF? So I rage quit, then internet searched, and then went to buy flame arrows.
Yeah, that's right. In the games, in the Baldur's Gate games. Yeah, like the trolls would just get back up. Like, dang it.
Just a couple more. P-Story Pancake says, when I was first interested in D&D but had never played it, I started to listen to all kinds of D&D discussion podcasts like Crit Academy or actual play podcasts like How Friends Roll. And I was listening to this really small podcast I'm sure you've never heard of. It's called InterPartyConflict.
Ugh.
They're this really nice D&D podcast. Anyway, they were discussing metagaming and gave the troll with its regeneration that can only be stopped by fire as the prime example of something everyone just knows. And I went, I guess I know that now. And that was my first contact with trolls in D&D.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Sorry. The idea that someone would not have experience playing D&D and would listen to us is kind of a foreign concept to me, because it's like, well, what did we do to interest you if you're not already playing D&D? You know?
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah.
What appeal is there to our podcast?
What's my appeal? Yeah.
No, we appreciate it though.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yes, very much. Dustin says the encounter in Baldur's Gate 2 was his first experience as well. He started to make sure to carry a scroll of Melf's acid arrow. It was expensive, but he was that afraid.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then MRV73 says it wasn't until 2nd edition and it was a PC druid by the name Sanguine. So I'm guessing they met a PC was playing a troll.
A troll druid?
Yeah, interesting.
That's cool.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for last week's social media question. Our next social media question, kind of similar, but inspired by today's questions instead of 2 weeks ago's questions. What was your first experience with a doppelganger in D&D? How did the encounter play out? So we talked about changelings earlier because they are related to doppelgangers. Yeah. Have you ever encountered a doppelganger in D&D in some way other than just a straightforward fight? If so, what happened?
Yeah. Listeners might remember that I have had an encounter with a doppelganger when Gabe had my character get captured and then was replaced by a doppelganger that I then played for like a couple adventures or a couple sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That then betrayed the party and everything. So.
Yep.
So yeah, that was fun. That was interesting. It was really cool.
I mean, I can't take too much credit for that. It was just part of the adventure path.
Yeah, but you still executed it well, so it was good.
Well, thank you. My first time running a doppelganger was before that. It was in a different campaign. It was while I was a terrible DM with a little trademark symbol next to it.
Ding. Yeah.
I think I lured I had a doppelganger take the form of, shoot if I know, some random person, lured the party into a sewer, which was basically just a straight line with a couple curves in it. Yeah. I was terrible at coming up with maps. And then I think either it attacked the players or the players could tell that it was a doppelganger and they attacked it. And I totally did not understand its change shape ability. I was like, oh yeah, you grab it by the neck. It just sort of like morphs so that its head isn't in your hands and now it's running away or whatever.
Oh, sure.
I was terrible at that. To be fair, I don't think the players were very good at that point either, but I'm pretty sure 99% of the fault lies on me. So
yeah, well,
yeah. So hey, you live and you learn.
Yeah,
I guess. So that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, twilight has fallen. The beasts have been slain. The townspeople have been saved. Your job is done. It is time to set your armor down in the retirement village. Today's retirement village was submitted by Larry D via email. And they said, I played a few 2E games, but soon 3E had arrived and I started my first real character. Syrah was a draconian from Dragonlance, but always hid herself as a high elf with blonde hair and silver eyes. I didn't know at the time, but I gestalted her without knowing what that was. She was a wizard sorcerer. After almost 3 years of weekend games during high school, she was a magic monster. She used all sorts of magic items that cost her almost nothing, and she had way more magic than I needed. During play, she had a passive income, became the mother of draconians, helped a fellow player flirt with a love interest, and then spontaneously fell in love with each other instead. The two of them married, had children, and then in the attempt of trying to power down my mage, the DM hit me with Mordenkainen's Disjunction.
Ooh.
After reading it and failing to save, I made my case, and the DM agreed that all enchantments got destroyed, turning my character back into a true silver dragon. I played a while longer, and after many attempts at trying to kill me, which failed, the DM gave me the heads up that she found a way to retire me. Challenge accepted. She gave the party a titanic battle which we barely lived through, and as a reward she gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. To limit my power, I was raised to become a goddess of prophecy, battle magic, and, unofficially, meddling. I became an NPC that gave blessings and quests on occasion. She has become a staple in every game I run, though always hidden behind the scenes.
Huh.
So yeah, I think that's a pretty good retirement right there. I would say, I don't know how common it actually is, but it's not super uncommon for this to be the end for, some sort of sufficiently high-level PC. They become some sort of a divine being and then become an NPC.
Right, yeah.
So you did good, Larry
Yeah.
D. All right, so let's raise a glass in memory of Sierra, Larry D's character, as we say, thank the goddess it's Friday. Clink. It's actually not Friday.
Gabe,
We record this. It's actually not even going to be Friday when this episode goes out.
Yeah, this episode, he's going on a Tuesday, Gabe. Dang it.
Yeah, good point. Whatever day you listen to this is honorarily Friday.
yeah, I'll tell that to my employer.
All right, I think that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. And actually, let me interject here for a moment. Blogger or Blogspot, which is where we have our blog through, has been real weird lately, and the interface has completely changed, and I don't know how to use it now, and I don't know if it's only temporary.
Oh.
It used to be really easy to use. You just type in whatever you want. As of like 3 weeks ago or something, now it's like an HTML page or something, and like I don't know all of the commands to format it the way that I want, and even if I did, it would be a ton more work. So I'm actually not going to be using the blog for a little while. Hopefully this is a temporary thing and they'll go back to the way that they were. But I guess stay tuned. If you go to our blog for show notes or whatever and they're not there, if it hasn't been updated, I apologize. Give us some time. I'll figure something out.
Yeah. Okay.
So, however, you can still join the discussion on social media. We are on Facebook. We are on Reddit. We are on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Also find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
Yes. Also, head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Haha, I was actually Gabe the whole time.